There comes a time in life when we look back and see the pain we have endured, the betrayals, the injustices, the coldness of hearts that once professed love, the cruelty of those who took advantage of our kindness. Some of you have spent decades carrying wounds inflicted by the very ones you trusted. Perhaps it was a family member, a lifelong friend, or even a spouse who turned against you. Perhaps it was someone who drained you of your love, your patience, your generosity, and then discarded you without a second thought. And after all these years, you may still wonder, did God see? Did He care? Does He remember what they did to me? Let me tell you now with absolute certainty, yes, He saw, yes, He cares, and yes, He remembers. The Lord declares in Deuteronomy 32:35, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay. In due time their foot will slip. Their day of disaster is near, and their doom rushes upon them." There is no sin, no deception, no act of cruelty that escapes His divine notice. The world may forget, the wrongdoers may move on as if their actions had no consequences, but God's justice does not sleep. He has appointed a time, and when that time comes, those who have wounded you will feel the weight of their actions, as surely as the seasons change and the sun sets upon the earth. Many of you have waited a long time for this justice. Perhaps you have cried in the quiet hours of the night, whispering prayers that seem to go unanswered. You have lived long enough to see the wicked prosper, to see those who hurt you continue in their ways without facing the consequences they deserve. And it is easy in the waiting to wonder if God has forgotten you. But hear this: the wheels of His justice turn slowly. Psalm 37:7 tells us, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. You are not forgotten. Your pain is not ignored. The Lord has marked every tear, every sigh, every silent moment of heartache, and He will respond." You see, when God moves, He does not always move with thunder and fire. His justice is often unseen at first, like the tide pulling back before the storm crashes upon the shore. It begins in the quiet places of the heart. The very people who mistreated you, who dismissed your worth, will begin to feel something they cannot quite explain. An unease, a heaviness, a void where once they felt sure of themselves. Ecclesiastes 3:17 assures us God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. That time is coming. Some of you may have already started to see the signs. Doors that once opened for them now closed, relationships that once sustained them now crumbling, a restlessness that gnaws at them in the stillness of the night. They may not say it aloud, but deep within they know something is not right. The peace they once took for granted is slipping through their fingers like sand, and they are left grasping for the security they once mocked you for holding on to. For those who have hurt you, regret is not a simple feeling. It is a storm, a reckoning, a force that shakes the very foundation of their soul. It is waking up one day and realizing they have built their lives on shifting ground, that every step they take leads them further into emptiness. It is facing the undeniable truth that the harm they caused is coming back upon them, not by your hands, but by the sovereign will of God Himself. And oh, how heavy that burden will be when they finally understand. Isaiah 3:11 warns, "Woe to the wicked, disaster is upon them. They will be paid back for what their hands have done. But do not let bitterness take root in your heart. Your task is not to gloat, nor to seek revenge." Romans 12:19 reminds us, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord.'" Your task is to trust. Your task is to rest in the knowledge that your Father in heaven is not idle. Your task is to watch and see how he moves. You have carried this pain for so long, but you do not have to carry it forever. You are not alone in your suffering. The Lord is your defender, and he will fight for you. And when he does, those who wronged you will understand, perhaps for the first time in their lives, the weight of what they have done. Watch for these signs, these undeniable markers that God is at work, that he is bringing forth his justice in his perfect time. There is a great and terrible thing that happens when a person sins against the innocent, when they wound, betray, and mistreat those whom God himself watches over. At first they may walk away unbothered, convinced that their actions carry no weight. They may even take pride in their ability to manipulate, deceive, or use others without consequence. But the moment they raise their hand against a child of God, something begins to shift in the unseen world. A debt is recorded in heaven, and though it may seem for a time that they have escaped judgment, the hand of the Lord moves slowly but surely. One of the first signs of God's justice unfolding is this: he takes their peace. Peace is not just the absence of trouble. It is the deep and abiding rest of the soul, the quiet assurance that all is well. It is a gift given by God himself, as Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." When a person walks in righteousness, they walk in peace. But when someone mistreats the innocent, they invite a spiritual disturbance into their own lives, one that cannot be silenced by wealth, success, or distractions. At first, they may not recognize what is happening. They may continue living as they always have, speaking boldly, laughing loudly, and moving forward as though their betrayal meant nothing. But then, slowly, in the quiet hours of the night, something shifts. The bed that once gave them rest becomes uncomfortable. The mind that once entertained their ambitions now becomes restless. A shadow follows them wherever they go. This is no ordinary guilt. No, this is the hand of God, pressing upon them, unsettling their spirit, removing the false comfort they once had. They will feel it when they wake up in the morning, an unshakable heaviness that they cannot explain. They will feel it in the midst of conversations, as laughter feels hollow and joy becomes fleeting. Their mind will begin to wander, always circling back to the past, to the people they mistreated, to the moments they chose selfishness over kindness. The Bible speaks of this judgment in Isaiah 57:20. "But the wicked are like the tossing sea which cannot rest, whose waves cast up mire and mud. There is no peace, says my God, for the wicked." They may try to escape it. They may turn to entertainment, to work, to unhealthy distractions, seeking to drown out the unease that grows within them. They may attempt to surround themselves with people, hoping that the noise of the world will silence the voice of conviction that rises in the stillness. But it will not work. No amount of distraction can erase what they have done. No amount of denial can quiet the truth that is now taking root in their heart. This is why so many who have wronged others find themselves constantly unsettled. You may notice that they never seem to rest, always seeking something, yet never satisfied. They may change careers, chase after material possessions, or immerse themselves in new relationships. Yet deep within, there is a hollowness that nothing can fill. Because peace cannot be bought, nor can it be manufactured by the hands of men. Peace is a gift from God, and he does not give it to those who trample on the innocent. Consider the story of Cain. When he betrayed his own brother, thinking he had committed the perfect crime, God's voice came thundering down. "Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Genesis 4:11-12. Cain was not sentenced to immediate destruction. No, his punishment was far worse. He was stripped of peace, condemned to wander the earth with a restless soul, never able to settle, never able to find the comfort he once knew. This same judgment befalls those who have mistreated you. God will strip away their peace, leaving them restless, uneasy, and burdened. They will see others walking in joy, yet they will not understand why they themselves feel empty. The weight of their own actions will rest upon them, and they will be left to wrestle with the reality that their betrayal has cost them something they never imagined. Peace with themselves and peace with God. This is why you do not need to seek revenge. You do not need to prove anything. The very person who mistreated you will one day look into the mirror and realize that their own heart has turned against them. The confidence they once had will fade. The security they built for themselves will crumble, and in the end they will be left with nothing but the regret of what they have done. Psalm 34 verse 21 declares, "Evil will slay the wicked, the foes of the righteous will be condemned. Their own choices will rise against them, their own conscience will be their accuser, their own memories will become their torment, and they will understand, perhaps too late, that no one can touch God's children without feeling the weight of His justice upon their soul." It may seem as though nothing has changed. The one who wronged you carries on with life, seemingly untouched by the harm they have inflicted. They go about their days, pursuing their ambitions, securing their relationships, and planning their future. If you look at them from a distance, it may appear as though they have escaped judgment entirely. But do not be deceived. What you do not see is the slow, steady hand of God, moving in ways that are not always immediate, but are always certain. God is patient, but He is also just. When someone mistreats his beloved, when they cast aside the kindness that was shown to them, God begins to remove His favor from their life. One by one, the doors that once opened effortlessly for them will begin to close. Opportunities that once seemed guaranteed will suddenly slip through their fingers. Relationships that once brought them comfort will begin to unravel. It will not happen all at once, no. God moves in such a way that they may not even recognize what is happening at first. They may dismiss it as bad luck, as mere misfortune, or as a temporary setback. But as time goes on, as one door after another refuses to open, as one plan after another crumbles before their eyes, they will start to sense that something is different. This is the working of divine justice. The Bible warns us in Proverbs 21:13, "Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered." They ignored the pain they caused. They silenced your cries, dismissing them as insignificant. And now, in their time of need, they will find that heaven itself has grown silent toward them. You see, when God blesses a person, He places a hedge of favor around them. He orders their steps, causing them to walk in provision and security. But when someone turns against the righteous, when they choose cruelty over compassion, that hedge begins to be removed. They will attempt to walk in the same confidence they once had, but something will feel different. Where once they found favor, now they find resistance. Where once doors flung open for them, now they remain locked. They may try to force their way forward, relying on their own strength, their own cunning, their own determination. But it will not work. For what God has closed, no man can open. This is a truth echoed throughout Scripture. Lamentations 3:44 says, "You have covered yourself with a cloud, so that no prayer can get through." And again in Job 5:12, "He thwarts the plans of the crafty, so that their hands achieve no success." The one who wronged you will begin to experience this in ways they never expected. Perhaps they had once relied on the trust of others to get ahead, but now they find that people no longer see them the same way. Perhaps they had always been confident in their ability to manipulate situations to their advantage, but now every attempt falls apart. Perhaps they had built their success on the foundation of your kindness, your support, your presence, and now, without you, that foundation crumbles beneath them. Even their relationships will begin to suffer. The same way they discarded you, they will one day be discarded. Galatians 6:7 declares, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. If they sowed betrayal, they will reap betrayal. If they sowed rejection, they will be rejected. If they built their happiness on your suffering, then suffering will find them in ways they never anticipated. And the most unsettling part? They will not always understand why it is happening. They will grasp for explanations, blaming circumstances, blaming others, blaming everything except the truth staring them in the face. They mistreated one of God's own, and now God Himself is standing against them. For some, this realization will come too late. They will try to fix what has been broken, to restore what has been lost, but the season of grace they once walked in has passed. The doors that once opened for them were not opened by their own strength, but by the favor of God. And that favor has been lifted. Others will grow desperate, trying to force their way through doors that God Himself has shut. They will exhaust themselves, attempting to regain what was freely given to them before. But, as Revelation 3:7 reminds us, what He opens no one can shut, and what He shuts no one can open. They will learn, some through heartbreak, others through humiliation, that the success they once enjoyed was never theirs to begin with. It was given by God, and now it has been withdrawn. You do not need to seek revenge. You do not need to wish harm upon them, for their own actions have already set into motion a divine response. You need only to watch as God closes every door that once stood open for them, as He removes every advantage they once took for granted. It may seem as though their life is untouched, as though they continue to walk in confidence, surrounded by the same friends, family, and companions. You may see them laughing, posting pictures, celebrating new connections, and moving forward as if nothing ever happened. It might even appear that they have replaced you without a second thought, as though your presence in their life was nothing more than a passing shadow. But do not be deceived. What you see on the surface is never the full story. God is always working behind the scenes, and one of the greatest signs of His divine justice is this: their relationships, those same relationships they clung to for security, will begin to fall apart. This is not coincidence. This is not merely the natural course of life. No, this is the slow unraveling of what was never truly built on a firm foundation. The same person who discarded you so easily will soon find themselves discarded. The same person who mistreated you will find that they are now the ones being mistreated. Proverbs 6:12-15 warns us about the fate of those who sow discord and mistreat others. A troublemaker and a villain, who goes about with a corrupt mouth, who winks maliciously with his eye, signals with his feet and motions with his fingers, who plots evil with deceit in his heart. He always stirs up conflict, therefore disaster will overtake him in an instant. He will suddenly be destroyed, without remedy. They thought they could move forward without consequences. They thought they could form new relationships and never look back. But God is just. When a person mistreats the people placed in their life by divine appointment, they do not simply lose those people. They lose the very grace that sustained their connections. Suddenly, the friendships they trusted in begin to feel distant. The relationships they once relied upon grow cold. The people who once stood by them begin to drift away, and they cannot understand why. Perhaps they will try to ignore it at first. They will brush off the tension, convincing themselves that it is just a phase, that everything will return to normal. But as the weeks turn into months, they will begin to see a pattern of loss, of disconnection, of broken bonds that they never expected to break. This is because God is not mocked. Galatians 6 verse 7. What they sowed, they will reap. Did they betray your trust? Someone will betray theirs. Did they turn their back on you in your time of need? Someone will turn their back on them. Did they discard you as though your presence was meaningless? They will wake up one day to find that those they love have discarded them in the same way. Their own words will return to them. Their own actions will be mirrored in the actions of those they once trusted. And in their quietest moments, they will remember. They will remember how they mistreated you. They will remember how easily they cast you aside. And they will begin to wonder if what is happening to them is not simply fate, but justice. Even their closest relationships will not be spared. The very people they surrounded themselves with, the ones they thought would always remain, will start to withdraw. They will argue more often. They will feel unseen and misunderstood. Where there was once warmth, there will be tension. Where there was once loyalty, there will be doubt. Why? Because when a person turns against one of God's own, they invite division into their own life. They may have thought that discarding you was a decision made in their own strength, but what they did not realize was that it was the beginning of their own unraveling. Jesus himself warned of this in Matthew 7:02. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. The same way they treated you is the same way they will be treated. The same pain they inflicted upon you is the same pain they will one day experience. For some, this realization will come too late. They will look around and see that the people they once leaned on have disappeared. They will reach out for comfort, only to find silence. They will seek love, only to find indifference. And they will begin to ask themselves, why is this happening to me? But deep in their spirit, they will already know the answer. It may seem like nothing has changed. The one who wronged you still moves forward, still carries themselves with confidence, still speaks with authority, still enjoys the life they built, perhaps even at your expense. You watch them, wondering when justice will come, when the weight of their actions will finally catch up to them. But be patient, for God's timing is not ours. When He moves, He does so in a way that cannot be undone. And one of the greatest signs of His justice is this: the very person who once walked with ease will begin to struggle in ways they never did before. The strength they once relied on will begin to fail them. The certainty they once had will begin to fade. The things that once came easily to them will now require effort. Yet no matter how much they try, they will not be able to regain what they lost. They may not notice it at first. Struggles have a way of creeping in slowly. One day it's a minor inconvenience, something they can brush off. The next, it's a small setback, something they assume they can fix. But then, before they know it, they are weighed down by burdens they never expected to carry. Psalm 37:17 tells us, "For the arms of the wicked will be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous." The arms of the wicked, their strength, their confidence, their ability to navigate life without consequence, will fail them. Where once they were able to control situations, now those same situations spiral beyond their reach. Where once they had power, now they feel powerless. Where once they could manipulate, now they face resistance at every turn. This is divine justice. Not always loud, not always immediate, but always certain. For those who once walked in financial abundance, their resources will begin to dry up. They will work just as hard. They will chase after the same success, but something will be missing. Every dollar they earn will feel as though it slips through their fingers, as if no matter how much they gain, they are never satisfied. This is what God warned about in Haggai 1:6. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. You put on clothes, but are not warm. You earn wages, only to put them in a purse with holes in it. It is not just about material loss. It is about the inability to find fulfillment. The work they once enjoyed will feel burdensome. The things they once took for granted will now require struggle. For those who once held positions of influence, they will find themselves losing the respect and admiration they once enjoyed. People will stop listening to them the way they used to. The attention they once commanded will fade. They may still speak, but their words will no longer carry the same weight. The authority they once had will begin to slip through their grasp, and no matter how hard they try to reclaim it, they will fail. For those who once relied on physical strength, they will begin to feel the effects of exhaustion. Their energy will wane. Their body will grow weaker. Sleep will no longer bring rest. They will begin to feel the weight of their own choices pressing down upon them, not just emotionally, but physically. This is what Job 5:12-13 warns us about. He thwarts the plans of the crafty, so that their hands achieve no success. He catches the wise in their craftiness, and the schemes of the wily are swept away. It is a terrifying thing to be in opposition to God, to be moving forward, yet feel unseen forces pulling you back, to put forth effort, yet receive no reward, to chase after success, only to watch it remain just beyond reach, and worst of all, they will not know how to fix it. They may blame others, they may tell themselves it's just a temporary phase, but deep down, in the quiet moments of the night, they will begin to wonder. They will remember the people they hurt, the ones they betrayed, the moments they thought they got away with. And though they may not say it out loud, they will feel it in their spirit. This is not coincidence. This is the weight of their own actions catching up to them. They will struggle, not just outwardly but inwardly. Anxiety will creep into their thoughts. The confidence they once had will be replaced by doubt. They will begin to second-guess every decision, unsure of why things are no longer working in their favor. And this is the justice of God, not always immediate, not always visible to the world, but always felt by the one who has done wrong. They may have felt triumphant. Perhaps they believed they had won, that they had moved forward without consequence, that their actions would never catch up to them. They dismissed the pain they caused as insignificant, convincing themselves that you were just another person, another chapter, another moment that would soon fade from their memory. But what they failed to understand is that God does not allow injustice to rest. No matter how far they try to run from their past, no matter how much they try to distract themselves, the weight of their choices will begin to press upon them, and there is no escape from the judgment of a guilty conscience. Psalm 32:10 says, "Many are the sorrows of the wicked, but steadfast love surrounds the one who trusts in the Lord." This is the fate of those who have done wrong. They will be surrounded by sorrow, not always the kind that is visible to others, not always the kind that is spoken aloud, but deep within, where no one else can see, where only God and their own soul can bear witness. The weight of their wrongdoing will begin to consume them. At first it will come in subtle ways. A memory will surface when they least expect it. A name, a place, a sound, something will trigger a flood of recollection. They will remember what they did, how they spoke, how they betrayed, how they dismissed you as though you were nothing. Perhaps they will shake it off, telling themselves that they did what they had to do, that they had no choice, that they were justified in their actions. But no matter how many times they push the thoughts away, they will always return. Because guilt is not just a feeling, it is a spiritual reality. Job 15:20 describes the torment of the wicked. All his days the wicked man suffers torment, the ruthless man through all the years stored up for him. They will suffer in ways that no one else may notice. The things that once brought them joy will feel empty. The victories they once celebrated will be tainted with unease. Even in moments of laughter, a shadow will linger in the back of their mind, a whisper reminding them that something is not right. This is the justice of God at work. For some it will manifest as sleepless nights. They will toss and turn, unable to find rest, because no matter how exhausted they are, their mind will not let them forget. They will replay their actions over and over, questioning whether they could have done things differently, wondering if the choices they made have led them into the very misery they now endure. For others it will manifest in a sense of emptiness. They will achieve what they thought they wanted, only to realize it does not satisfy. They will stand in the very places they once longed for, surrounded by the very people they once chose over you, and yet something will be missing. And they will begin to realize that the happiness they thought they could steal, the peace they thought they could claim, has slipped through their fingers like sand. Because peace does not come from success. It does not come from relationships. It does not come from the approval of others. It comes only from God. And when you act against His will, when you harm those He loves, when you betray the trust of the innocent, that peace is removed. Isaiah 48:22 declares, "There is no peace, says the Lord, for the wicked." This is why no matter how much they try to convince themselves that everything is fine, something within them will always feel unsettled. They will try to distract themselves with new experiences, new people, new pleasures, but nothing will fill the void, because the void they now carry is the weight of their own actions pressing upon them, and for some, that weight will become unbearable. They may try to numb it with indulgences, throwing themselves into work, into relationships, into anything that will keep their mind occupied. But the moment they are alone, the moment the noise fades and they are left with nothing but their own thoughts, the guilt will return, stronger than before. Some will reach the point where they try to make amends. They will attempt to justify their past actions, to rewrite the story in their own favor, hoping that if they can convince themselves they did nothing wrong, the guilt will disappear. But truth cannot be erased, and the more they run from it, the heavier it will become. Proverbs 28:1 warns us, "The wicked flee though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion." This is the curse of guilt. It makes a person feel pursued even when no one is chasing them. They will become restless, uneasy, uncertain. Every shadow will seem like an accusation. Every quiet moment will feel like a reckoning. They will feel haunted, not by spirits, but by the undeniable truth of what they have done. And no amount of denial will change the reality that God has set into motion. For the one who wronged you, this will be the beginning of their unraveling. They may still appear strong on the outside, still wear the mask of confidence, still act as though they have no regrets. But within, a battle will rage, a battle they cannot escape, a battle they will lose. Because guilt is not just a passing emotion, it is the hand of God pressing upon them, reminding them that justice is being served. There was a time when they felt untouchable, when they moved through life with ease, confident that everything they had was theirs to keep. They never thought twice about the blessings they enjoyed, the comfort they lived in, the people who surrounded them. They assumed that what they had today would always be there tomorrow. But when a person mistreats the innocent, when they walk in pride and cruelty, they set themselves on a path that leads to loss, Because what they did not realize is that the blessings they took for granted were never truly theirs. They were gifts from God. And when they misused those gifts, when they used their position, their resources, or their relationships to harm rather than to uplift, those very blessings became the foundation of their downfall. Scripture is clear. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Job 1:21. At first, the losses may seem small, almost insignificant. Perhaps a minor setback in their career, perhaps a disagreement with a close friend, a financial struggle, an unexpected burden, something that causes a moment of frustration, but nothing they cannot recover from. But what they do not realize is that these small losses are warnings. They are the first signs that the ground beneath them is beginning to crumble. And if they do not recognize it, if they continue in their pride and their disregard for others, those losses will not stop. They will increase. For some, it will be financial. They once had more than enough, never worrying about their daily needs. They lived in comfort, spending freely, believing that prosperity was their right. But now, things begin to shift. Unexpected expenses arise. Opportunities they once counted on disappear. The security they once felt in their wealth begins to weaken. They work harder but earn less. They chase success but find only exhaustion. Haggai 1:9 warns of this very thing. You expected much, but see, it turned out to be little. What you brought home I blew away. Why? Declares the Lord Almighty. Because of my house, which remains a ruin, while each of you is busy with your own house. They did not care for what God entrusted to them, and now He begins to remove it. For others, the loss will come in relationships. They once had a circle of friends, a support system, people who stood by them no matter what. But now, those connections begin to fade. One by one, people drift away. The ones who once admired them begin to see their true nature. The ones who once stood by them now keep their distance. They feel abandoned, but they do not understand why. They may blame others, accusing them of being disloyal or ungrateful, but deep in their spirit they will know the truth. They are simply reaping what they have sown. Proverbs 11:29 warns, "Whoever brings ruin on their family will inherit only wind, and the fool will be servant to the wise." For some, the loss will come in their own peace of mind. They once walked with confidence, certain of their own path, but now they are plagued with doubt. The things that once brought them joy no longer satisfy. The places that once made them feel powerful now feel empty. They begin to feel lost, wandering through life without direction. They reach for things that used to comfort them, but they find no relief. Ecclesiastes 2:11 describes this feeling. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. They thought they had everything. They thought they had control. But now they begin to realize that everything they took for granted is slipping away. The worst part is that they will not understand it at first. They will fight against it. They will struggle to regain what they have lost. They will make desperate attempts to rebuild, to recover, to hold on. But nothing will work, because what they do not realize is that it is not people or circumstances working against them, it is the hand of God. And when God removes something, no amount of effort can bring it back. At first, they may try to convince themselves that everything is fine. They will go about their lives as if nothing has changed, surrounding themselves with distractions, drowning out the whispers of regret with noise and activity. They will chase after pleasures, success, and validation from others, hoping that if they just keep moving, if they just keep achieving, they will never have to face the weight of what they have done. But no matter how far they run, a void will begin to form within them, one that nothing in this world can fill. At first, they may not recognize it for what it is. It will manifest as restlessness, as a subtle but persistent feeling that something is missing. They will seek entertainment, but it will not satisfy. They will pursue new relationships, but they will feel disconnected. They will achieve milestones, but the joy will be fleeting. This is the emptiness that comes when a soul is out of alignment with God. Ecclesiastes 3:11 tells us, "He has also set eternity in the human heart." This means that deep within every person there is a longing for something greater than this world can offer. And when someone lives in rebellion against God, when they betray, deceive, and harm others without repentance, that longing becomes unbearable. They will begin to feel hollow, as though something inside them has been drained away. It will start in small ways. Perhaps they will notice that the things they once loved no longer bring them joy. The activities that once excited them now feel dull. The conversations that once made them feel important now feel empty. They will keep doing these things, hoping that the feeling will pass, but it will not, because the void they now carry is not a result of external circumstances. It is the spiritual consequence of their actions. The book of Proverbs 14:13 warns, "Even in laughter the heart may ache, and rejoicing may end in grief." To the outside world, they may still appear happy. They may still smile, still celebrate, still pretend as if nothing is wrong. But deep down, there will be an ache that they cannot escape. Some will try to fill this emptiness with material things. They will buy more, consume more, chase after wealth and luxury, believing that if they just surround themselves with more possessions, they will finally feel complete. But no matter how much they accumulate, it will never be enough. As Luke 12:15 warns, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." What they do not realize is that their emptiness is not a lack of things. It is a lack of peace. Some will try to fill it with people. They will jump from one relationship to another, hoping that someone will make them feel whole again. They will seek validation, approval, and admiration, desperate for attention that distracts them from the gnawing emptiness within. But no matter how many people surround them, they will still feel alone, because the one thing they truly need, the presence of God, is the one thing they have rejected. Some will try to fill it with work and achievement. They will pour themselves into their careers, striving for greater success, believing that if they just reach the next goal, the next promotion, the next level of recognition, they will finally feel fulfilled. But every time they reach the top, they will find that it is not enough. The satisfaction they crave will always be just out of reach. As Matthew 16:26 reminds us, "What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" This is the burden of the unrepentant heart. It will never find rest, and the longer they ignore it, the worse it will become. What once felt like restlessness will turn into despair. What once felt like emptiness will turn into deep sorrow. They will begin to feel the weight of their choices pressing upon them, and no matter how much they try to silence it, the truth will always remain. They are missing something they cannot buy. They are longing for something they cannot chase down. They are searching for something they can never find on their own. Because true peace, true joy, true fulfillment, these are things that come only from God. And when someone lives in opposition to Him, when they mistreat the innocent, when they betray and wound without repentance, they will find themselves wandering through life with a hollow heart, burdened by a longing they can never satisfy. The justice of God is not always swift, but it is always certain. Those who have wronged you may believe they have escaped the consequences of their actions. They may walk with pride, speak with arrogance, and live as if they are untouchable. But what they do not realize is that the hand of God is already at work. One by one, the things they once relied on will begin to slip away. Their peace will be disturbed. Their relationships will crumble. Their victories will turn to ashes. And the very blessings they once took for granted will vanish before their eyes. They will be haunted by regret, tormented by guilt, and filled with a deep emptiness that no earthly pleasure can satisfy. They will chase happiness, but find only sorrow. They will seek fulfillment, but find only loss. And no matter how much they try to deny it, deep within their soul, they will know that they are reaping what they have sown. But what about you? What about the one who was wronged? You have suffered. You have been betrayed. You have endured pain that others may never fully understand. But do not think for one moment that your suffering has gone unnoticed. God has seen every tear. He has heard every cry. He has felt every ache in your heart, and He is not finished with your story. While they are losing, you are being restored. While they are falling apart, you are being made whole. While they are haunted by the past, you are being led into a future filled with peace, joy, and divine protection. Psalm 37:7 reminds us, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes." You do not need to seek revenge. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to fight this battle on your own, because the Lord is your defender, and when He moves, no one can stand against Him. So, hold on to hope, stand firm in faith, trust that God is working, even when you cannot see it. And when the time comes, when justice is served, when those who hurt you begin to feel the weight of their own actions, you will not rejoice in their downfall. You will simply walk forward, free from the pain of the past, knowing that God has always been and will always be your protector. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14. Your victory is not in watching them suffer. Your victory is in knowing that God has always been on your side, and in His perfect time, He will make all things right.